Hello and welcome to this Beyond Shakespeare exploring session. I'm Eric Karoulla because Robert Crighton is not right here. And today we'll be reading The Night of the Burning Pestle attributed to Francis Beaumont, but I don't know if it's both Beaumont and Fletcher, perhaps. I have not read it yet, so yeah, I'm not a very good host of this. Anyway, so reading this lovely play with me, which has been sort of a forerunner of various other plays that we've read. So there will be a lot of references to other plays, as far as I know. We have reading the prologue, Humphrey and Tim.
By Alan Scott, already confused, in Suffolk.
Reading Luce, the Boy, and Old Merrythought, we have.
Hi, my name's Elizabeth Amisu and I'm an author based in Romford.
Reading Rafe and Mistress Merrythought.
Hi, I'm Lois, retired academic in London.
And reading a citizen who is delightfully one and only, citizen.
Yes, Steve Longstaff in the northwest of England, watching the sunshine.
The sun shining in the north of, anyway, enough with the north of England jokes. Reading A Wife and Merchant, we have.
Hello, my name is Lynn Freitas. I am a college composition teacher. I'm coming to you from the Northwestern United States.
And reading Jasper and George, we have
Rachel, actor on the East Coast.
Okay, that was short and sweet. This is apparently a comedy based on the introduction. There is actually a epistle called, to the reader of this comedy. Gentlemen, the world is so nice in these our times that for apparel there is no fashion, for music, which is a rare art, though now slighted, no instrument, for diet, none but the French kickshaws that are delicate. I have no idea what kickshaws are. And for plays, no invention, but that which now runneth an invective way, touching some particular persons, or else it is condemned before it is thoroughly understood. This is all that I have to say, that the author had no intent to wrong anyone in this comedy, but as a merry passage, here and there interlaced it with delight, which he hopes will please all, and be hurtful to none. Therefore, we begin with the prologue.
Where the bee can suck no honey, she leaves her sting behind. And where the bear cannot find origanum to heal his grief, he blasteth all other leaves with his breath. We fear it is like to fare so well with us, that seeing you cannot draw from our labour's sweet content, you leave behind you a sour mislike, and with open reproach blame our good meaning, because you cannot reap the wanted mirth. Our intent was at this time to move inward delight, not outward lightness, and to breed, if it might be, soft smiling, not loud laughing, knowing it to the wise to be a great pleasure to hear counsel mixed with wit, as to the foolish to have sport mingled with rudeness. They were banished the theatre of Athens, and from Rome hissed, that brought parasites on the stage with apish actions, or fools with uncivil habits, or courtesans with immodest words. We have endeavoured to be as far from unseemly speeches to make your ears glow, as we hope you will be free from unkind reports, or mistaking the author's intention, who never aimed at any one particular in this play to make our cheeks blush. And thus I leave it, and thee to thine own censure, to like or dislike. Folly.
That is a polite prologue if I've seen one. Well, I mean, yeah, you like it or you don't. That's your problem, basically. I'm not sure whether we should discuss this or just keep moving on with the induction, which is separate to the prologue, because, that was quite short.
I mean, one thing about the prologue is that it's not really for this play, I think, isn't it, by Lily? I mean, it goes with one of Lily's plays.
Well, it certainly sounds like it, where the bee can suck no honey, she leaves her sting behind, where the bear cannot find oregano. All that imagery is very Lily-esque. I don't know if it's actually written by Lily or borrowed. I don't know.
Yeah.
Any thoughts? Since we're here. Alan, yeah.
I'm just wondering whether it's given what has just been said on the Lily type effort, whether it's actually pastiche. Because I think quite a lot of this play, and I must admit, I had looked at the script earlier because I did some of the initial edit trying to tidy up who was speaking. I think it does pastiche quite a number of other things.
Oh, yeah. No, in fact, you'll need to use the duck sound during this.
I shall go fetch the duck then. While you read the induction, enter the prologue.
From all that's near the court, from all that's great, within the compass of the city walls, we now have brought our scene.
Hold your peace, good man boy.
What do you mean, sir?
But you have no good meaning. These 7 years there have been plays at this house. I have observed it. You still have goods and citizens. And now you call your play The London Merchant? Down with your title, boy. Down with your title.
Are you a member of the noble city?
I am.
And a free man?
Yea, and a grocer.
So, grocer, then by your sweet favour, we intend no abuse to the city.
No, sir. Yes, sir. If you were not resolved to play the jacks, what need you study for new subjects purposely to abuse your betters? Why would you not be contented, as well as others, with the Legend of Whittington, or the Life and Death of Sir Thomas Gresham, with the building of the Royal Exchange, or the story of Queen Eleanor, with the rearing of London Bridge upon Woolsacks?
You seem to be an understanding man. What would you have us do, sir?
Why, present something notably in honour of the commons of the city.
Why, what do you say to the life and death of Fat Drake, or the repairing of Fleet Privies?
I do not like that, but I will have a citizen, and he shall be of my own trade.
Oh, you should have told us your mine a month since. Our play is ready to begin now.
It is all one for that. I will have a grocer, and he shall do admirable things.
What will you have him do?
Marry, I will have him...
Husband!
Peace, mistress.
Hold thy peace, Rave. I know what I do. I warrant ye. Husband!
What sayest thou, Coney?
Let him kill a lion with a pestle. Husband, let him kill a lion with a pestle.
So he shall. I'll have him kill a lion with a pestle.
Husband, shall I come up, husband?
Aye, Coney. Rafe, help your mistress this way. Pray, gentlemen, make her a little room. I pray you, sir. Lend me a hand to help up my wife. I thank you, sir. So.
By your leave, gentlemen, I am something troublesome. I'm a stranger here. I was ne'er at one of these plays, as they say before, but I should have seen Jane Shore once, and my husband have promised me anytime this 12th month to carry me to the bold Beauchamps, and in truth, he did not. I pray you bear with me.
Boy, let my wife and I have a couple of stools and then begin. And let the grocer do rare things.
But sir, we have never a boy to play him. Everyone hath a part already.
Husband, for God's sake, let Rafe play him. Beshrew me if I do not think he will go beyond them all.
Well remembered, wife. Come up, right. I'll tell you, gentlemen, let them but lend him a suit of apparel and necessaries, and by God, if any of them all blow wind in the tail on him, I'll be hanged.
I pray you, youth, let him have a suit of apparel. I'll be sworn, gentlemen, my husband tells you true. He will act you sometimes at our house that all the neighbors cry out on him. He will fetch you up a couraging part so in the garret that we have all of us feared, I warrant you, that we quake again. We will fear our children with him. if they be never so unruly, but cry, Rafe, Rafe comes to them, and they'll be as quiet as lambs. Hold up thy head, Rafe. Show the gentleman what thou canst do. Speak a huffing part. I warrant you the gentleman will accept of it.
Do, Rafe, do.
By heaven, methinks it were an easy leap to pluck bright honor from the pale-faced moon, or dive into the bottom of the sea where never fathom line touched any ground, and pluck up drowned honor from the lake of hell.
How say you, gentlemen? Is it not as I told you?
Nay, gentlemen, he hath played before, my husband says, Musidorus, before the wardens of our company.
Aye, he should have played Geronimo with a shoemaker for a wager.
He shall have a suit of apparel if he will go in.
In, Rafe, and set out the grocery in their kind, if thou lovest me.
And exit Rafe with quacks following him.
I warrant our Rafe will look finely when he's dressed.
What will you have it called?
The grocer's honor.
Methinks the Knight of the Burning Pestle were better.
I'll be sworn, husband, that's as good a name as can be.
Let it be so. Begin, my wife, and I will sit down.
I pray you do.
What stately music have you? You have them shawms?
Shawms? No.
No. I'm a thief if my mind did not give me so. Rafe plays a stately part, and he must needs have shawms. I'll be at the charge of them myself then, rather than will be without them.
So you like to be.
Right, and so I will be. Here's 2 shillings. Let's have the weights of Southwark. They're as rare fellows as any in England. That will fetch them all over the water with a vengeance, as if they were mad.
You shall have them. Will you sit down then?
Oh, is Stephen frozen?
I believe not. Will you sit down then, good sir?
Aye, come, wife.
Sit you merry all, gentlemen. I'm bold to sit amongst you for my ease.
From all that's near the court, from all that's great within the compass of the city walls, we now have brought our scene. Fly far from hence all private taxes, in modest phrases, whate'er may show, but like vicious, for wicked mirth never true pleasure brings, but honest minds are pleased with honest things. Thus much for what we do. But for Rafe's part, you must answer for yourself.
Take no care for Rafe. He will discharge himself, I warrant you.
In faith, gentlemen, I'll give my word for Rafe.
And scene with the wife and citizen presumably sitting there watching.
Yep.
Which
Now
would be,
seated on stage.
Yeah. Any thoughts? Well, I have my trusty harmonica here, in case of duck requirements.
Yeah,
The audience from hell.
they kind of are. I mean,
Yeah, Lynn, sorry.
yeah, they're kind of, the audience from hell, actor's nightmare audience. I'm also just really charmed by them. They're so enthusiastic. They're like, oh, Rafe can do it. Rafe can do it. He's such a good little actor. The stage mom comes out. So yeah, you really don't, as an actor or a producer or director, want these people in your audience, but I can't be mad at them just because they're so earnest.
Yeah, it's kind of like, I think the person that she reminded me of was Venus in one of the Christmas tilts we did or something that was, I can't remember if we recorded it or not, but it was definitely being very proud of her son Cupid, and who was, who basically tried to speak a speech and got stuck on the first word or something. Like, he's so good, he's so good. Yeah. Any other thoughts since we're here? Rachel has a thought. Many thoughts.
I think this would be fun if you staged this scene, because it's right at the top and you can just plant the citizen and his wife in the seats, and they can come in last minute and totally just whatever aisle you put them in, just bump into everybody, sit down, and then get up in the middle. And you would really throw an audience off, because unless somebody's familiar with like this particular play, I don't think they're going to expect these two random people to just get up and then walk on stage. And I think you could really throw an audience off and spark a lot of nervous laughter. And then when they realize it's part of the show, real genuine laughter.
Yeah. Elizabeth and Alan.
Yeah, it's so funny what Rachel was saying this, because I saw this at the Sam Wanamaker in 2014, and I cannot for the life of me remember how they started it. I remember them being on stage, but I'm not sure if they came through the aisles.
They came out of the audience.
They came out of the audience.
Yeah.
What I love most about this opening is just how meta it is. You know, we've seen a play within a play, but this is a playgoer's play, and they're talking about so many different plays during the opening, which I think is just lovely. And I got a sense from the induction that people would still be kind of coming in, still be like, I'm not sure if they would have shut the doors on the theatre, if people would still be coming in, like catching bits of the induction before the play proper started.
Yeah, I kind of pictured what Rachel was saying, where like, you know, you've got like the wife sort of going, oh, let me squeeze between you two, sort of, but obviously wearing something that is either, part of me is going, sort of making things as uncomfortable, maybe like even having popcorn to make noise during the performance, something that is really annoying, that annoys audiences so much, like rustling, I don't know, sort of the, what do you call it, wrappers and stuff, as the, you know, candy wrappers. I don't know, that's just fascinating as a beginning. Alan had a thought, and then Lois.
Yeah, I mean, what I was signaling was there's actually three of them come up from the audience: Citizen, the wife, and Rafe. So you can actually disrupt the front 5 rows of the audience three times. And yes, I mean, I think one of the interesting ones is that probably if you start at the beginning of the main prologue, in other words, pre-induction, with the wife actually sitting there noisily unwrapping sweets, mobile going off potentially, you know, that she's just being a complete pain in the what's it.
And Lois, yeah.
Oh yeah, I think they think that the private theaters would have had spectators on the stage. I mean, it's the impression you get is that there are some benches of spectators here, and that people on the stage kind of help these guys off, you know, up to get up onto the stage. It's one of the few times I think where people actually do enter through the audience. I mean, in modern productions, there are quite a lot of entrances through the audience, but I don't think that they usually did it. But this is clearly a case where they did. As a result, you've got not only the citizen and his wife, but other people available, you know, on the stage to react or be sort of drawn into things.
Yeah. And it's kind of, I don't know how stages, like if this was indoors, then I guess it would have been easier to access the stage compared to outdoor stages where you've got, I mean, I've seen like sort of footage of various performances where it seems like like they've been modernized, obviously, so you can have like stairs going up to the stage, but yeah. I don't know. Sorry, Rachel, you had a thought.
No, I was just gonna say, I wonder what people's interpretation, like if people were sitting on stages at that time, was of that, you know, what was the one we read recently where the husband was murdered, you know, and it was one of those city plays or something like that, and the wife was sitting at the window, you know, that she sits on the stage at the end, or if people were doing that, like if there's some sort of you know, because they do seem like wealthier people, you know, him being a part of a guild, that if it's some critique of that these people like have a desire to be seen or a desire for some sort of fame that speaks to maybe some immodesty or like some sort of social critique on that, I don't know.
I don't know. Any responses to that? Well, then,
I mean, yes. In the Restoration, after the theaters were closed and then reopened in 1660, we're pretty sure they had stools on the edges of the stages where typically young men about town sat. And you paid extra for that, I think. This might have been a practice before the theaters were closed in the 1640s. And yes, I think there might be sort of implied a little bit of social critique that this is just an ordinary citizen, but he sort of got gentlemanlike pretensions by sitting on the stage. But we'll see how that critique of his pretensions plays out through the play. So, but I think that is definitely a reasonable interpretation of what's going on.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Yeah, I love this idea about the sort of blending the line between the spectator and the spectacle, between the audience and the play itself. And I love the idea that there would be people like on the stage, would be people by the stage, and that where they were sitting would equate to their status because of how easily they could be seen. Yeah. I think that's really fascinating.
Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah, also because I think that quite like the people who are on the stage are quite likely to be young, aren't they? They're often referred to as gallants. Mm-hmm. It reminded me a little bit of like when your parents discover Facebook or something. There's a sort of ageist point here as well. That they really kind of are not getting it at all, and so it's about class as well, isn't it? But I'm just wondering how much, because they are kind of middle-aged, aren't they? And it's a boys' play.
Yeah. Yeah, and also it's kind of, I mean, if you put it on stage now and have people actually doing that with spectators on the stage as well, there is that element of, oh, is this, are we allowed to? We can do that? Like interrupt the play? They just kind of, because we're, nowadays, audiences are so polite about performers. It just kind of freaks them out a bit. I've been at performances where people are like, what, can we do that? It's not like, what? Whereas, if you're invited to play as part of a play, it's interesting. Sorry, Lynn, and then Elizabeth.
So yeah, something that I just now noticed, and even though I'm somewhat familiar with this text, is that that just now occurred to me. So the citizen is, the character is obviously supposed to be sort of an established middle-aged guy, and his wife is a woman. And if this was a boys' play, the person playing the citizen would not have been middle-aged, and in any case, the person playing the wife would not have been a woman. So there really would not have been a moment in the original production circumstances when the audience was fooled, when the audience thought, oh my God, what's going on? These people are coming out of the audience interrupting the play. They never would have thought that, because it would have been obvious by their age and their gender that they were playing parts.
You have a point. Elizabeth, you were going to say something.
So interesting what Lynn just said, that there would be no point in which the audience would be fooled by this. I was just thinking about like just performances at like the Duckman's Theatre, and how carefully policed they are. There's an illusion, because of the way the staging is set up, that you can shout, you can heckle, you can you can start having your own conversation in the middle of a performance, but really you can't do those things because they're kind of like social codes almost encoded into the space, I think, that are very different now from the early modern period, that kind of define how much the audience can get involved.
Yeah, Lois.
Well, this whole question of audience involvement, and especially in relation to, say, the Globe, which was where it really came up, it's complicated. I mean, I don't see any real reason to believe that they wanted an enormous amount of audience involvement in the early modern period either. And I think they wanted what they wanted, not what the audience wanted. And when the Globe first started, I mean, there was an enormous amount of negative publicity about their Henry V, because the audience, I think, thought that they were meant to be booing the French, for example. And the same thing when they did, oh gosh, I'm mentioning all these things now.
Quack, quack, quack.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where to go from this. I really can't keep speaking about it. But anyway, audiences kept reacting as if they were at a pantomime. I mean, they weren't quite yelling, "Look about you," look behind you, open the box, and so on. But it was practically that kind of thing. But it was partly because they thought that was what they were supposed to be doing. And I think eventually, partly because there was the reviewers complained so much about this awful behavior and thought the Globe was a terrible place, that I think the actors on the whole got a pretty good system for controlling them. I mean, they now make it pretty clear when they want people to start yelling, but it's actually one of the enjoyable things about going there now. I mean, that you'll have people going, "Oh," if somebody says something vaguely pathetic, and you'll have them applauding when something nice happens, and so on. It feels very good, but it is in a way controlled. You're quite right about that it's not just anything. And when it is just anything, it's awful. I mean, I remember one production where somebody in the groundlings suddenly started complaining that they were playing everything out front and she was on the side and couldn't hear. And she even said, "Don't worry, I'm going." And she did. I mean, and of course, that just created dead silence and total embarrassment.
Awkward. Yeah. First of all, yeah, I'm not gonna do one for every single play that you mentioned, but I mean, it's interesting to have sort of curated audience participation. Then you get people who want to break the play like I do and destroy it. Elizabeth, then we should move on. Yeah.
I think we're going to have trouble with this play because it's so Duckman. I just feel like a lot of the plays that we've done are very Duckman, but this one I think in particular has the spirit of the Duckman in it. So I think we'll be bringing out the harmonica quite a lot today.
Thank you for the notes.
You did recognize the one genuine Duckman bit, didn't you? I mean, I'd hate for you to miss it, but
To be fair, it was pointed out by everybody else, and I'm not familiar with that play, so it's fine. Anyway, moving on. Act 1, Scene 1. Enter the merchant Venturewell, apparently, and Jasper his man.
"Sirrah, I'll make you know you are my prentice, and whom my charitable love redeemed even from the fall of fortune, gave thee heat and growth to be what now thou art, new cast thee, adding the trust of all I have at home, in foreign staples or upon the sea, to thy direction, tied with good opinions both of myself and friends to thy endeavors. So fair were thy beginnings. But with these, as I remember, you had never charge to love your master's daughter. And even then, when I had found a wealthy husband for her, I take it, sir, you had not. But however, I'll break the neck of that commission and make you know you are but a merchant's factor."
Sir, I do liberally confess I am yours, bound both by love and duty to your service, in which my labor hath been all my profit. I have not lost in bargain, nor delighted to wear your honest gains upon my back, nor have I given a pension to my blood, or lavishly in play consumed your stock. These, and the miseries that do attend them, I dare with innocence proclaim are strangers to all temperate actions. For your daughter, if there be any love to my deservings, born by her virtuous self, I cannot stop it, nor am I able to refrain her wishes. She's private to herself, and best of knowledge, whom shall make so happy as to sigh for. Besides, I cannot think you mean to match her unto a fellow of so lame a presence, one that hath little left of nature in him.
"'Tis very well, sir. I can tell your wisdom how all this shall be cured."
Your care becomes you.
"And thus it shall be, sir. I here discharge you. my house and service. Take your liberty. And when I want a son, I'll send for you.
Exit the merchant.
These be the fair rewards of them that love. You that live in freedom never prove the travel of a mind led by desire.
Enter Luce.
Why, how now, friend? Struck with my father's thunder?
Struck and struck dead, unless the remedy be full of speed and virtue. I am now what I expected long, no more your father's.
But mine.
But yours and only yours I am. That's all I have to keep me from the statute. You dare be constant still?
Oh, fear me not. In this I dare be better than a woman, nor shall his anger nor his offers move me, were they both equal to a prince's power.
You know my rival?
Yes, and love him dearly, even as I love an ague or foul weather. I prithee, Jasper, fear him not.
Oh no, I do not mean to do him so much kindness, but to our own desires, you know the plot we both agreed on.
Yes, and I will perform my part exactly.
I desire no more. Farewell, and keep my heart, 'tis yours.
I take it. He must do miracles, makes me forsake it.
And they exit severally.
Well, fire upon them, little infidels. What's the matter here now? I'll be hanged for a halfpenny if there be not some abomination knavery in this play. Let them look to it. Rafe must come, and if there be any tricks a brewing,
Let them brew it and bake too, husband of God's name. Rafe will find out all, I warrant you. And they were older than they are.
Enter the boy.
I pray, my pretty youth, is Rafe ready?
He will be presently.
Now I pray you make my commendations unto him, and withal carry him this stick of licorice. Tell him his mistress sent him it, and bid him bite a piece. 'Twill open his pipes the better. Say.
And exit the boy with licorice, presumably. Any thoughts since we're here? Or shall I move on? Oh wait, Lynn. Sorry.
Yeah, I kind of love the merchant unreasonably, the merchant and his wife. It's like they're playing they kind of know they've done this before, you get the feeling, but here we have an absolutely formulaic new comedy, blocking parents, young people in love with a plan, and the merchant's like, those little infidels, shame on them. Like, you've never seen a play before. It's like the merchant doesn't get how romantic comedies work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alan. Yeah.
I think you mean citizen rather than merchant.
Yeah. I'm wrong. Yeah.
And I mean, to a certain extent, the wife has got more of an excuse because she's already made the plea at the beginning that she's never been allowed to go and see a play before. And this was a treat that she'd been, I suspect, nagging for ages.
Yeah.
So she, to a certain extent, doesn't have any experience of the conventions that she might be expected to follow.
I'm just thinking this is like her going, this is Sergio from the rom-com that I was watching, and sort of, the soap I was watching on TV. I mean, obviously this is a stereotype, but yeah. Anyway, moving on. Any other thoughts before I move on to the next scene? Elizabeth.
I wonder with the wife if Beaumont was making a jest of certain types of playgoers, certain types of people in the audience that he found particularly amusing.
Probably.
I think she's a bit of a Hyacinth character.
Bouquet.
Yes.
Yes. Anyway, moving on. Act 1, Scene 2. Enter the merchant and Master Humphrey.
Come, sir, she's yours. Upon my faith, she's yours. You have my hand for the other idle lets between your hopes and her. Thus, with the wind, they are scattered and no more. My wanton prentice that like a bladder blew himself with love, I have let out and sent him to discover new masters yet unknown.
I thank you, sir. Indeed, I thank you, sir. And ere I stir, it shall be known, however you do deem, I am of gentle blood and gentle seam.
Oh, sir, I know it certain.
Sir, my friend, although as writers say all things have end, and what we call a pudding hath his too, oh, let it not seem strange, I pray to you, if in this bloody simile I put my love more endless than frail things or gut.
Husband, I prithee, sweet lamb, tell me one thing, tell me truly. Stay, youths, I beseech you, till I question my husband.
What is it, Mouse?
Sirrah, didst thou ever see a prettier child? How it behaves itself, I warrant ye, and speaks and looks and perts up the head. I pray you, brother, with your favor, were you never none of Mr. Moncaster's scholars?
Chicken, I prithee heartily contain thyself. The childer a pretty childer, but when Rafe comes, lamb.
Aye, when Rafe comes, Coney. Well, my youth, you may proceed.
Well, sir, you know my love and rest, I hope, assured of my consent. But get but my daughters, and wed her when you please. You must be bold and clap in close unto her. Come, I know you have language good enough to win a wench.
A whoreson tyrant has been an old stringer in his days, I warrant him.
I take your gentle offer, and withal yield love again for love reciprocal.
Enter Luce.
What? Loose, within there.
Called you, sir?
I did. Give entertainment to this gentleman, and see you be not forward. To her, sir, my presence will be but an eyesore to you.
Exit the merchant.
Fair Mistress Luce, how do you? Are you well? Give me your hand, and then I pray you tell, how doth your little sister and your brother, and whether you love me or any other?
Sir, these are quickly answered.
So they are, where women are not cruel, but how far? Is it now distant from the place we are in, unto that blessed place, your father's warren?
What makes you think of that, sir?
Even that face, for stealing rabbits, whilom in that place. God's Cupid or the keeper, I know not whether, unto my cost and charges brought you thither, and there began.
Your game, sir.
Let no game nor anything that tendeth to the same be evermore remembered, thou fair killer, for whom I sate me down and break my tiller.
Oh, there's a kind gentleman, I warrant you. Will you do as much for me, George?
Beshrew me, sir. I'm sorry for your losses. But as the proverb says, I cannot cry. I would you had not seen me.
So would I, unless you had more to do me good.
Why, cannot this strange passion be withstood? Send for a constable and raise the town.
Oh no, my valiant love will batter down millions of constables and put to flight even that great watch of midsummer day at night.
Beshrew me, sir. 'Twere good I yielded then. Weak women cannot hope, where valiant men have no resistance.
Yield then, I am full of pity, though I say it and can pull out of my pocket thus a pair of gloves. Look, Luce, look, the dog's tooth nor the doves are not so white as these, and sweet they be, and whipped about with silk, as you may see. If you desire the price, shoot from your eye a beam to this place, and you shall espy FS, which is to say, my sweetest honey. They cost me 3 and 2pence, or no money.
Well, sir, I take them kindly, and I thank you. What would you more?
Nothing.
Why then, farewell.
Nor so, for lady, I must tell, before we part, for what we met together. God grant me time and patience and fair weather.
Speak and declare your mind in terms so brief.
I shall, then first and foremost for relief, I call to you, if that you can afford it, I care not at what price, for on my word it shall be repaid again, although it cost me more than I'll speak of now, for love hath tossed me in furious blanket like a tennis ball, and now I rise aloft, and now I fall.
Alas, good gentleman, alas the day.
I thank you heartily, and as I say, thus do I still continue without rest. In the morning like a man, at night a beast, roaring and bellowing mine own disquiet. That much I fear, forsaking of my diet, will bring me presently to that quandary. I shall bid all adieu.
Now, by Saint Mary, that were great pity.
So it were, beshrew me. Then ease me, lusty loose, and pity show me.
Why, sir, you know my will is nothing worth without my father's grant. Get his consent, and then you may with assurance try me.
The worshipful your sire will not deny me, for I have asked him, and he hath replied, sweet Master Humphrey, Luce shall be thy bride.
Sweet Master Humphrey, then I am content.
And so am I, in truth.
Yet take me with you. There is another clause must be annexed, and this it is I swore and will perform it. No man shall ever join me as his wife, but he that stole me hence. If you dare venture, I am yours. You need not fear. My father loves you. If not, farewell forever.
Stay, nymph, stay. I have a double gelding coloured bay, sprung by his father from barbarian kind. Another for myself, though somewhat blind, yet true as trusty tree.
I am satisfied, and so I give my hand. Our course must lie through Waltham Forest, where I have a friend will entertain us. So farewell, Sir Humphrey, and think upon your business.
Exit loose.
Though I die, I am resolved to venture life and limb for one so young, so fair, so kind, so trim.
Exit Humphrey.
By my faith and troth, George, and as I am virtuous, it is the kindest young man that ever trod on shoe leather. Well, go thy ways if thou hast her not. 'Tis not thy fault, in faith.
I prithee, mouse, be patient. He shall have her, or I'll make some of them smoke for it.
That's my good lamb, George. Fie, this stinking tobacco kills men. Would there were none in England. Now, I pray, gentlemen, what good does this stinking tobacco do you? Nothing, I warrant you. Chimneys of your face.
And exit. Well, not exit, but I mean end of the scene. Well, that was this play is actually ticking along quite quickly. I'm realizing that we're already on scene 3. Yeah, this is an interesting play. I'm enjoying the sort of stereotypes of the sappy lover boy sort of going, I love you more than life, I love you, I'm rhyming so much. Yeah. And any thoughts? Rachel, then Stephen. Sorry.
I think you could still get people with that tobacco line, because there's so many of the Gen Z now with those little vape pens that they whip out every other second with their little bubblegum vapes.
Yep.
Very true. Stephen.
It's quite. I think it's quite carefully placed right at the beginning, but I will never ever get tired of the big sausage full of love metaphor. It kind of, without those, the one or two, there are these kind of really crazy things at the beginning, and then it kind of settles down, doesn't it? But it's given us a frame, I suppose, for all this kind of lovers rhyming, hasn't it? Which is at any minute he's apt to go off and give you this ludicrous kind of top and tail thing.
Yeah. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, that was apparently a saying. Everything has an end, but a pudding has two, because a pudding is a sausage, essentially, tied at each end. So that's what Humphrey is saying. But then he goes on to say, that he's using a simile, which is pretty bloody because it's all chopped meat.
As we found out in A Christmas Mess, which you can see on our YouTube channel. Yeah, no, there's so much stuff in here though. I mean, aside from the animals, like, like that's my good lamb George, the mouse and stuff, like the nicknames. There's so much that you could. I mean, I'm not a cultural historian or anything, but it just like you just want to mine it for details. It just looks like fun. Also, I imagine staging this would be fun. Lynn.
I just think there's something so clever about the meta theatricality. We have two young lovers and her father disapproves. We've seen that 157,000 times before. And they say, and the Jasper says, now you've got a part to play, do it right. She's like, oh, trust me, I know my lines. So they've got some kind of a plot. And then she has this little exchange with the lover of whom her father approves. And she says, I made myself a promise that I would only marry someone who would spirit me, who would steal me from my father. We can see right through that. That's as transparent as glass. That's the ploy that she and her Jasper have put together. They're going to use poor Humphrey to get her out of the house so she can marry Jasper. I mean, we see all this coming. It's really quite formulaic and predictable. But when you throw in the observations of the citizen and his wife who don't get that, who are like, oh, Humphrey, he's so charming. He really deserves her. It is suddenly this thing that's actually kind of hackneyed is fresh again. I just think that's so clever. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, and also just the dialogue, the sort of commentary is kind of. I mean, aside from you kind of stop not stop listening, but it's like tuning out of the main event and then just waiting for the commentary. It's kind of funny, I guess. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on to scene 3? I don't know if there's many more scenes between this and where we're gonna stop. But anyway, Rachel.
Also just that he goes into that rhymed verse and how that's the rhymed verse, I think, goes out of its way to be like these sort of bad rhymes. It's so great. Maybe this is another quack, but I think there was a play with a young guy that there's a section where he goes into some archaic form of poetry while trying to woo a woman, and then she tells him to cut it out, and then he starts talking normally. So I think it's there's something about him that he's even talking in an archaic form of speech that's very constructed.
Alan, yeah, sorry.
I think Humphrey's scriptwriter is now working for a greetings cards manufacturer.
Humphrey, Hallmark,
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Hallmark Humphrey.
Yes. Onward. Act 1, Scene 3. Enter Rafe like a grocer in his shop with two apprentices reading Palmerin of England. I'm guessing that's a newspaper?
No, it's a romance.
Oh, a romance. Okay, sorry.
Oh, husband. Now there's Rafe.
Ease, fool. Let Rafe alone. Hark you, Rafe. Do not strain yourself too much at the first. Beast. Begin, Rafe.
Then Palmerin and Trineus, snatching their lances from their dwarfs and clasping their helmets, galloped amain after the giant. And Palmerin, having got a sight of him, came posting amain, saying, Stay, traitorous thief, for thou mayest not so carry away her that is worth the greatest lord in the world. And with these words gave him a blow on the shoulder that he struck him beside his elephant. And Trineus, coming to the knight that had Agricola behind him, set him soon besides his horse, with his neck broken in the fall, so that the princess, getting out of the throng, between joy and grief said, All happy night, the mirror of all such as follow arms, now may I be well assured of the love thou bearest me. I wonder if kings do not raise an army of 14 or 1500,000 men, as big as the army that the Prince of Portugal brought against Rossicler. and destroy these giants. They do much hurt to wandering damsels that go in quest of their knights.
Faith, husband, and Rafe says true, for they say the king of Portugal cannot sit at his meat, but the giants and the Ettins will come and snatch it from him.
Hold thy tongue. On, Rafe.
And certainly those knights are much to be commended, who, neglecting their possessions, wander with a squire and a dwarf through the deserts to relieve poor ladies.
Aye, by my faith are they, Rafe. Let them say what they will, they are indeed. Our knights neglect their possessions well enough, but they do not the rest.
There are no such courteous and fair, well-spoken knights in this age. They will call one the son of a whore, that Palmerin of England would have called fair sir, and one that Rossaclear would have called right beauteous damsel, they will call damned bitch.
I'll be sworn they will, Rafe. They've called me so 100 times about a scurvy pipe of tobacco.
But what brave spirit could be content to sit in his shop with a flappet of wood and a blue apron before him, selling Mithridatum and dragon's water to visited houses, that might pursue feats of arms, and through his noble achievements procure such a famous history to be written of his heroic prowess?
Well said, Rafe. Some more of these words, Rafe.
They go finely, by my troth.
Why should not I then pursue this course, both for the credit of myself and our company? For amongst all the worthy books of achievements, I do not call to mind that I yet read of a grosser errant. I will be the said knight. Have you heard of any that have wandered unfurnished of his squire and dwarf? My elder prentice, Tim, shall be my trusty squire, and little George, my dwarf. Hence, my blue apron. Yet, in remembrance of my former trade, upon my shield shall be portrayed a burning pestle, and I will be called the Knight of the Burning Pestle.
Nay, I dare swear thou wilt not forget thy old trade. Thou wert ever meek.
Tim.
Anon.
My beloved squire, and George, my dwarf, I charge you that from henceforth you never call me by any other name but the right courteous and valiant knight of the Burning Pestle, and that you never call any female by the name of a woman or wench, but fair lady, if she have her desires, if not, distressed damsel, that you call all forests and heaths deserts, and all horses palfreys.
Oh, this is very fine. Faith, do the gentlemen like Rafe? Think you, husband?
I warrant thee, the players will give all the shoes in their shop for him.
My beloved squire, Tim, stand out. Admit this were a desert, and over it a knight-errant pricking, and I should bid you inquire of his intents. What would you say?
Sir, my master sent me to know whither you are riding.
No, thus, fair sir, the right courteous and valiant knight of the Burning Pestle commanded me to inquire upon what adventure you are bound, whether to relieve some distressed damsel or otherwise.
Horse and blockhead cannot remember.
If Faith and Rafe told him on it before, all the gentlemen heard him. Did he not, gentlemen? Did not Rafe tell him on it?
A courteous and valiant knight of the Burning Pestle, here is a distressed damsel to have a halfpenny worth of pepper.
That's good boy. See, the little boy can hit it, by my troth. It's a fine child.
Relieve her with all courteous language. Now, shut up shop. No more my prentice, but my trusty squire and dwarf. I must bespeak my shield and arming pestle.
Exit Tim and George.
Go thy ways, Rafe, as I am a true man. Thou art the best on 'em all.
Rafe,
What say you, mistress?
I prithee, come again quickly, sweet Rafe.
By and by.
Exit Rafe and the scene. That's just so cute. I can see why Lynn likes this play because it's kind of cute, like sort of just the framing is just I think I'm being won over very slowly. I like the idea that they're kind of just being sort of like cosplaying, but not just like sending these kids out into the desert or a forest that isn't really a forest. Lois.
Yeah, I mean, what's tricky about it is that so much of it is supposedly improvised, but you don't really know how much to make it sound like somebody making it all up all the time and hesitating, or how much to do it more like I don't know, something they've read somewhere and pretty much know by heart. And it's the same really with the actors in the other bit of the play. They, as you'll see, they have to keep improvising because of the way that the two plots start to intersect. And but what exactly are they doing, and how good are they supposed to be? How good are all these people supposed to be at what they're doing? I think on the whole, watching an awful lot of really bad acting or people pretending to be bad actors tends to get tedious after a while. But but it's hard to know just how far to take it.
Yeah, I guess. Sorry, Rachel. Yeah.
No, I was just gonna say to what Lois just said. I mean, so many people in here are academics, so I wonder if anybody has ever gotten papers from students where it just seems like something they were doing, maybe not last minute, but where they're just saying a load of nonsense to take up filler space and they're just going on.
Funny you should say that.
Maybe that might be a way to play it without, playing to bad acting, where it's just something that you're trying to make it seem like something.
Well, I guess also it looks like Rafe has suddenly stepped into the performance from like the romance novel that he's reading. And also just kind of, I think it was last time we were recording anyway, we were talking about Q scripts, and like with a Q script, this would definitely it would look like sort of, oh, I love you, let's go find danger and drama and that kind of, it would sort of come to life because of the immediacy of you need to listen with a Q script. Then again, Alan might throw a shoe at me, I don't know. Yeah. Any thoughts on this scene? Stephen is scratching his head pensively. Lynn, sorry, Stephen, then Rachel. Yeah.
Let Lynn go first. I'll gather my thoughts, but
okay. Yeah, another reason this just appeals to me, and then this is kind of my personal taste, is that not only is it meta theatrical, it's mocking genre, and as I have said before, I have kind of an unhealthy obsession with genre, the importance of genre and how it helps us read things. And so we have two completely different genres here. We have a sort of citizen comedy, a early modern, contemporary, new comedy plot with the young lovers and the blocking parent and all of that. So that's very clearly generically kind of almost cookie cuttery. And then we have the romance genre. Rafe comes in reciting something he's read, or maybe he's even reading, and you have to call all horses palfreys and all women ladies. And it's just that it's so aware of generic conventions and making fun of them, and just like headbutting these two completely mutually exclusive genres together. And I just find that, in my own nerdy way, hilarious.
Yeah. Rachel or Stephen, have you collected your thoughts?
Rachel first.
Okay, Rachel.
I just wanted to know, Palmerin of England, what is that and who is it by? And
it was originally written in Portuguese and then but I think it was actually published in a Spanish translation first. I just happened, this is a footnote in Eastward Ho that I did not long ago. That's why I know all this. And there were a number of translations into English. It was a very popular romance.
Cool. Wow. Yeah. I just like the idea that they kind of it's kind of like a mashup of, I don't know if you've seen Whose Line Is It Anyway, where they have to use a specific prop for a specific thing, and obviously it doesn't match the scenario that they are given. It's kind of like this, but this is probably better written, and probably funnier. Just don't tell Whose Line Is It Anyway. Anyway, moving on. Stephen continues to scratch his head, so I'll just shall I move on, or yeah.
Well, just to add to the genre point, I mean, I'm not really up with genres that young persons are into, but a modern equivalent would be something like anime, is it? Where these kinds of tales of heroism. And the other thing was that I hear, not that I'm ever going to go and see it, The Matrix has just kind of trundled out for the 4th time. And the only way that they can do it is to be meta about it. This has the great advantage of being meta and with a sense of humor. And that's, so that George, who presumably is a really small child, I'm guessing, to play the dwarf. So you've got this cute little 6-year-old who nearly gets it. Right, Curtis and Valiant Knight of the Burning Pestle, here is distressed damsel, but they're still in the shop. So it's like, who wants to buy some pepper? That's part of the meta-ness of it, isn't it? It is actually funny as well as clever with it.
Yeah. Well, see, I would do the opposite. If I were casting this, I would just go the opposite way, just like make the oldest person sort of, and tallest person George. And then,
some 6-foot lad whose voice is breaking.
Yeah. Yeah. That would be evil though. I was going to say something about the genre at that moment, but then I just completely forgot. So I guess we'll move on, unless there are any other thoughts on this. Oh yeah, no, what I was going to say was I'm just wondering that, like for us, okay, obviously we've read a lot of plays together. So for example, would people get the references in this, or, I mean, aside from the duck plays that we should not mention?
Well, it certainly referred to a hell of a lot of the stuff. I mean, Musidorus was there, Hieronymo was there, Spanish Tragedy was there. I mean, it's basically showing an awareness of everything that's been probably fairly popular on stage over the past 20 years. And as we know, a lot of the duck references are plays which were fairly heavily prefigured in other material before that chap got his name on them.
True. I guess also it's just, I'm wondering, because some of the jokes might just go over people's heads, but I don't know if they would, because they're still kind of funny. Rachel? Yeah.
I don't know. For that worry, like I put Candide in the chat, like this is a little bit like Candide in that it's a genre parody, or pastiche, depending on what way you want to interpret it. And maybe if you're putting this together in a season, you would put this a little further, a little closer to the end, maybe end the season on this note, because then you could introduce, maybe some other plays that this could be playing off of. And if somebody's bought a season ticket or something, they can pick up on many more of the jokes and feel like they're more in it, as opposed to, putting it at the top of a season at the very beginning. Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking that too. Sorry, Alan, yes, you were saying.
Yeah, I must admit, I'm getting a feeling in some ways of almost an end of term review. You're an end of season review and actors reprising stuff that they've possibly done earlier in the season. And reusing props, reusing costumes, and almost in some ways there is a pantomime element to it, which I think is difficult to ignore.
Yeah, that's true. And considering, like, for example, in stuff like Lily, where the Latin was used sort of as not so much as an exercise, but like sort of, let's see how well you've learned your Latin, boys. Kind of was used as a framework as well. The jokes might work in this as well. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. That analogy did not work. Act 1, Scene 4. Enter Jasper and his mother, Mistress Merrythought.
Give thee my blessing? Now I'll never give thee my blessing. I'll see thee hang first. It shall never be said I gave thee my blessing. Thou art thy father's own son, of the right blood, of the merry thoughts. I may curse the time that e'er I knew thy father. He hath spent all his own, and mine too, and when I tell him of it, he laughs and dances and sings and cries, "A merry heart lives long, ah." And thou art a waste thrift, and art run away from thy master that loved thee well, and art come to me, and I've laid up a little for my younger son, Michael, and thou thinkst to bezzle that, but thou shalt never be able to do it. Come here, Michael.
Enter Michael.
Come, Michael, down on thy knees. Thou shalt have my blessing.
And I just realized we don't have a Michael. I pray you, mother, pray to God to bless me.
God bless thee. But Jasper shall never have my blessing. He shall be hanged first. Shall he not, Michael? How sayest thou?
Yes, forsooth, mother, and grace of God.
Ah, that's a good boy.
In faith, it's a fine-spoken child.
Mother, though you forget a parent's love, I must preserve the duty of a child. I ran not from my master, nor returned to have your stock maintain my idleness.
Ungracious child, I warrant him. Hark how he chops logic with his mother. Thou hadst best tell her she lies. Do tell her she lies.
Is that all anyone has to say?
What do you think, husband?
We cannot hear you, good sir.
Dang, I've lost my place.
Oh.
If he were my son. If he were my son, I would hang him up by the heels and flay him and salt him, horse and halter sack.
My coming only is to beg your love, which I must ever, though I never gain it, and howsoever you esteem of me, there is no drop of blood hid in these veins, but I remember well belongs to you, that brought me forth, and would be glad for you to rip them all again and let it out.
Faith, I had sorrow enough for thee, God knows, but I'll hamper thee well enough. Get thee in, thou vagabond, get thee in, and learn of thy brother, Michael.
And indeed, they get themselves in, Jasper and Michael.
Nose, nose, jolly red nose, and who gave thee this jolly red nose?
Oh, hark, my husband, and he's singing and whiting, and I'm fain to cark and care, and all little enough. Husband, Charles Merrythought.
Enter old Merrythought.
Nutmegs and ginger, cinnamon and cloves, and they gave me this jolly red nose.
If you would consider your estate, you would have little list to sing, Ewis.
It should never be considered while it were an estate, if I thought it would spoil my singing.
But how wilt thou do, Charles? Thou art an old man, and thou canst not work, and thou hast not 40 shillings left, and thou eatest good meat, and drinkest good drink, and laughest.
And will do.
But how wilt thou come by it, Charles?
How? Why, how have I done hitherto these 40 years? I never came into my dining room but as 11 and 6 o'clock. I found excellent meat and drink at the table. My clothes were never worn out, but next morning a tailor brought me a new suit, and without question it will be so ever. Use makes perfectness. If all should fail, it is but a little straining myself extraordinary, and laugh myself to death.
Ah, it is a foolish old man, this, is it not, George?
Yes, Coney.
Give me a penny in the purse while I live, George.
Aye, bye, Lady Coney. Hold it there.
Well, Charles, you promised to provide for Jasper, and I have laid up for Michael. I pray you pay Jasper his portion. He's come home, and he shall not consume Michael's stock. He says his master turned him away, but I promise you truly, I think he ran away.
No, indeed, Mistress Mary thought, though he be a notable gallows, yet I'll assure you his master did turn him away, even in this place. 'Twas faith within this half hour about his daughter. My husband was by.
Hang him, rogue. He served him well enough. Love his master's daughter. By my troth, Coney, if there are 1,000 boys, thou wilt spoil them all with taking their parts. Let his mother alone with him.
Aye, George, but yet truth is truth.
Where is Jasper? He's welcome, however. Call him in. He shall have his portion. Is he merry?
Ah, foul chive him, he's too merry. Jasper, Michael.
Enter Jasper and Michael.
Welcome, Jasper. Though thou runnest away, welcome. God bless thee. 'Tis thy mother's mind thou shouldst receive thy portion. Thou hast been abroad, and I hope hast learnt experience enough to govern it. Thou art of sufficient years. Hold thy hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There is 10 shillings for thee. Thrust thyself into the world with that, and take some settled course. If fortune cross thee, thou hast a retiring place. Come home to me. I have 20 shillings left. Be a good husband, that is, wear ordinary clothes, eat the best meat, and drink the best drink. Be merry, and give to the poor, and believe me, thou hast no end of thy goods.
Long may you live free from all thought of ill, and long have cause to be merry still. But father.
No more words, Jasper. Get thee gone. Thou hast my blessing, thy father's spirit upon thee. Farewell, Jasper. But yet, or ere you part, oh cruel, kiss me, sweeting, mine own dear jewel. So now be gone. No words.
On that note, exit Jasper.
So, Michael, now get thee gone too.
But yes, forsooth, mother, but I'll have my father's blessing first.
No, Michael, 'tis no matter for his blessing. Thou hast my blessing. Be gone. I'll fetch my money and jewels and follow thee. I'll stay no longer with him, I warrant thee. Truly, Charles, I'll be gone too.
What, you will not?
Yes, indeed will I.
Hey ho! Farewell, Nan. I'll never trust wench more again if I can.
You shall not think when all your own is gone to spend that I have been scraping up for Michael.
Farewell, good wife. I expect it not. All I have to do in this world is to be merry, which I shall if the ground be not taken from me. And if it be, when earth and seas from me are reft, the skies aloft for me are left.
And they exit severally. I'm enjoying this. Also, because we rarely get to hear Elizabeth sing. Just kind of cool. Any thoughts on this section? Elizabeth. Yeah.
I like the merry thoughts. I think they're hilarious.
Alan. Yeah.
I think there's a marketing opportunity for people manufacturing thumb-shaped wigs. Both the citizen and old Merrythorpe both need them.
Yeah. Also, I just like how Mistress and Merrythorpe basically goes, "Yeah, no, you don't need your father's blessing. You're my investment, basically." Michael, it just sort of how not to parent kids. Lynn.
Yeah. And again, the citizen and his wife are on the wrong side.
Yeah.
They're rooting for the characters that typically people familiar with the genre and how we're supposed to interface with the genre. We probably don't like Michael very much. He's probably like a spineless little ass kisser, and we don't like him. And we like old Mary Thought, and we know because it's a play, everything will turn out all right in the end. And we don't like Mistress Mary Thought very much. She's kind of mean-spirited. But on the other hand, if it were real life, which it is, we are keenly aware it is not. The citizen and his wife are right. That's no way to live. That a penny in the purse. Live frugally, save your money. That's actually good advice. But the theater is a space where we kind of do the opposite of what's practical. And so this woman is so keenly aware of the difference between real life and theater. So I again, I just think that that's so clever and so smart.
Yeah, it's yeah. It's enjoyable, and also how she threatens him with like, yeah, I'm gonna go too now, since there's no
He's
more.
like, oh,
Yeah.
that's a bummer.
Yeah. And he just so I'm just wondering if they ever have a bad day. Did they change their names? No, that's just, yeah, I'm not gonna go there. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we move on to our interlude? Apparently there's an interlude next. Okay. Sorry, Elizabeth. Yeah.
Yeah, I think while we're all drinking that suspension of disbelief, in the kind of topsy-turvy world that Lynn was discussing, I think Lynn is really right that the citizen and the wife kind of give this voice to the audience that you don't usually see. It's the kind of like, I love the way Lynn was saying that they're rooting for the wrong people. And it's, I think, for the audience to kind of say, no, you shouldn't be rooting for Michael. You should be rooting for Jasper. He's the good one. And I love how Mistress Merrythought takes Michael, and Michael's kind of simpering. I thought Michael might have been played by the same actor that played George.
Same.
Possibly. And Mr. Old Merrythought takes on Jasper and gives him 10 shillings. And I just thought that counting out of the shillings was really funny. That made me laugh a lot, because I just thought that is not a very good inheritance to leave your son.
That's true. Stephen.
To just pile on the compliments for the play, the citizen and the wife kind of quite anxious about the content of it, and are quite worried and wish to police it, but they're incredibly relaxed about what's actually unfolding in this kind of mashup of different plays. They're completely okay with that. They are, so it's again, it's one of the interesting things about the play, isn't it? We've got this kind of quite narrow-minded, or sort of petty or whatever, but at the same time they're utterly relaxed about Rafe coming in and ending up being part of what's going on stage. So there's a kind of a counterbalance going on there, I think. The audience might be going, how on earth is this going to go? But they're not bothered. This is the life.
Yeah, they're just enjoying themselves. They're just waiting for Rafe to come on, let's be honest, and do all his tricks. Yeah, also I guess it's kind of we have this element of Rachel, was that hand, or Rachel was thinking?
I don't know. I think you could do them either way, the wife and the citizen. They could either be the old man Muppets, where they're overly critical, and that brings an element of humor to it in itself. And it could play with the prologue or whatever, where it said, don't criticize us. And then you have it right in the device, right in the not device, right in the play itself. It criticizes itself. So it's kind of like, you can't say anything meaner about us than we've already written here.
That's true.
Maybe.
That's very true. Okay, on that note, interlude 1, enter a boy dancing with music. We cannot hear you, good wife.
I'll be sworn he's a merry gentleman for all that. Hark, husband, hark, hark. Fiddles, now surely they go finely. They say 'tis present death for these fiddles to tune their rebecks for the great Turk's grace. Is not, George? But look, here's a youth dances. Now, good youth, do a turn of the toe. Sweetheart, in faith, I'll have Rafe come and do some of his gambols. He'll ride the wild mare, gentlemen. 'Twould do your hearts good to see him. I thank you, kind youth. Pray, bid Rafe come.
Give peace, Coney. Sarah, you, scurvy boy, bid the players send Rafe. Oh, by gods, and they do not, I'll tear some of their periwigs besides their heads. This is all riffraff.
Exit the boy, presumably to get the players. Part of me wants to pause here, but then I'm like very aware of time. Let's just, any thoughts on this?
This is all riffraff.
Yeah, I know, right? It's just like get Rafe on, Rafe. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
He dances so well. Yeah.
Definitely stage mom.
Yeah, stage mom.
Yeah, Rachel has a thing to say.
Now, this reminds me of when we were doing Taming of a Shrew, and there was the guy who was basically just like, bring on the clown, where's the clown? And it's like they found all the clowns in a cage under the theater basement, and they just opened it up, and this is the entire play is just the clowns.
Yeah, I mean, where else would you keep? No, human rights. Yes. Act 2, Scene 1. Entered the merchant and Humphrey.
How now, Faith? How goes it, son Humphrey?
Right worshipful and my beloved friend and father dear, this matters at an end.
Oh, 'tis well, it should be so. I'm glad the girl is found so tractable.
Nay, she must whirl from hence, and you must wink, for so I say, the story tells tomorrow before day.
George, dost thou think in thy conscience now 'twill be a match? Tell me but what you think, sweet rogue. Thou seest the poor gentleman, dear heart, how it labors and throbs, I warrant you, to be at rest. I'll go move the father for it.
No. Pretty sit still, honeysuckle. Thou'lt spoil all. If he deny him, I'll bring dozen good fellows myself, and in the shutting of an even knock it up, and there's an end.
Now, bust thee for that, in faith, boy. Well, George, you have been a wag in your day, I warrant you, but God forgive you. I do, with all my heart.
How was it, son? You told me that tomorrow before daybreak you must convey her hence.
I must, and thus it is agreed. Your daughter rides upon a brown-bay steed, I on a sorrel which I bought of Brian, the honest host of the Red Roaring Lion, in Waltham situate. Then, if you may, consent in seemly sort, lest by delay the fatal sisters come and do the office, and then you'll sing another song.
Well, alas, why should you be thus full of grief to me, that to do as willing as yourself agree to anything, so it be good and fair? Then steal her when you will, if such a pleasure content you both. I'll sleep and never see it, to make your joys more full. But tell me why you may not here perform your marriage.
God's blessing on thy old soul, old man. Faith, thou art loath to part true hearts. I see has her, George, and I am glad on it. Well, go thy ways, Humphrey, for a fair-spoken man. I believe thou hast not thy fellow within the walls of London, and I should say the suburbs too, I should not lie. Why, dost thou not rejoice with me, George?
I could but see Rafe again. I was merry as mine host, i' faith.
The cause you seem to ask, I thus declare. Help me, O Muses nine, your daughter swear. A foolish oath, the more it was the pity. Yet none but myself within this city shall dare to say so, but bold defiance shall meet him, weary of the noble science. And yet she sware, and yet why did she swear? Truly I cannot tell, unless it were for her own ease, for sure sometimes an oath, being sworn thereafter, is like cordial broth. And this it was, she swore never to marry, but such a one whose mighty arm could carry, as meaning me, for I am such a one, her bodily away through stick and stone, till both of us arrive at her request, some 10 miles off, in the wide Waltham forest.
If this be all, you shall not need to fear any denial in your love. Proceed. I'll neither follow nor repent the deed.
Good night. 20 good nights and 20 more, and 20 more good nights. That makes 80.
Exit all of them with Humphrey's multiplication. Just like that makes 80. Yeah, that's just, yeah. I'm not going to refer the play to which this might refer. Anyway, yeah. Any thoughts? So, I mean, you can add in final thoughts. I thought this was a longer scene, so yes. Elizabeth.
I always think it's played so good that I don't want to stop there. You know, I just want to be like, oh, we can't stop it there. It's just like those episodes with a cliffhanger, and you're just like, you want to know what's going to happen in the next scene. You're like turning over the page, or you're hungering for the next book. At least it's not like George R.R. Martin. We won't be waiting forever.
That is true, Alan.
The bad news for Elizabeth is if we kept going, we get to the end of the next scene, and you've been making exactly the same comment. You'd be here all week. I mean, this is a heck of a page turner as a piece, which I think those who do it better than I do would probably agree.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by, I mean, for the people who've seen it, how does this translate well into like sort of performance? Because it does seem, I mean, like obviously we've sort of, reading it might add more speed because without the actions and stuff, but yeah. So how does it work? Elizabeth?
I'm not sure how Lois felt about it, but I loved it. I remember when I went to see it with my friend Anu, and we both really, really just enjoyed it a lot. That it was a rip-roaring ride of a play.
Yeah, the production of The Wanamaker is what you're talking about. I thought it was terrific too. One of the best productions of it I've seen. I've seen some where I think what some people do is make the citizen and his wife completely modern, and they even modernize their language and try to make them sound like people that could have come out of a modern audience. And that really doesn't work. And then, you know, there's an obvious class thing going on here. I mean, the values of romance versus the values of bourgeois or citizen drama. And I think that instead of letting them speak for themselves, sometimes you get directors who want to make something of it. There's also just the fact that, well, as I say, you don't really quite know what to do with people like Jasper and Luce, because they could just be completely sending up the kind of play they're in, or they could be trying to do it straight and get very annoyed at the way it keeps being interrupted, you know, and the whole relation of the, you know, the so-called real actors to the ones who are pretending not to be actors, and then the one who's pretending not to be an actor but is actually acting, you know. Yes.
Too many layers.
Yeah.
Rachel, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Lois kind of just said it, that you could have them set up really quickly on stage for the next scene. And I don't know if you would want to, you could keep the other two in the audience or whatever after a certain point. Maybe they return to the audience during an intermission or something, and just really have that it seem like the play has stopped just for them to have this conversation and have everybody, you know, I mean, because their scenes are kind of long, that the actors could just be sitting on stage or waiting for their cues, looking out like, you know, things like that, and play with it like that.
Yeah, I was wondering how that would work, because I was thinking, like, you know, technically in a TV series, like if it was a film, you would, or a series, you would just like sort of zoom out and have them sort of, you know, the commentary over as a voiceover or something, or I don't know, blur it out or whatever. But then with this, it's kind of like they're doing it for you, so you've got them sort of going, do you mind? We're in the middle of something here. I'm trying to court the lady I love. Yeah, Alan.
Yeah, I mean, one way you could do it is that any actors could just sort of freeze while the dialogue is going on between the citizen and his boss.
Yeah,
That's
that's a question. Like, do they just sort of freeze so the audience it is encouraged to focus on the citizen and his life, or we try to split people's focus, and the actors who are trying to do their job are like, hey, I have a job. we're working here, roll their eyes like, so yeah, that's a choice you kind of need to make, is how do the actors react to these interruptions.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're all different, clearly. I mean, Humphrey is presumably the comic guy, and the Jasper is the jeune premier, the sort of young rising star. Luce, obviously the heroine, and and then, I mean, they all presumably have different ways of behaving. I mean, Merry Thought is really a kind of a puzzle of a character, and I don't even know quite what he means in that funny speech where he says, well, there's always been meat on the table, and every time I need a new suit, I get one. I mean, it's either he's living in an alcoholic haze, or or maybe he used to be a lot richer than he was and just can't imagine a different life. But it's very odd.
Alan and Rachel.
Yeah, I mean, I think going much later, he's almost Micawber character. Yeah. But yes, I think basically he's found the bottom of the bottle and is just keeping drinking.
Rachel.
No, I don't know if you could make this into some sort of original like Christmas panto thing, and Merry Thought could be like Santa Claus, because all the spices he kept saying in my mind are related to Christmas. They're in eggnog, or they're in the cookies, or ginger snaps, or things like that. And just have Santa Claus show up. I mean, it makes as much sense as everything else in this play. And, this is I think this is a great play for ripping out all the costumes that you really have in storage and saying, what do we do with this? And just throw them on the actors.
Yeah.
That sounds like a Lord Mayor show we might have read. Sorry, Lois.
Oh, there is a good musical comedy version of this called Nutmeg and Ginger. I have seen it. They did it at the Orange Tree Theater in Richmond, and it was actually very effective. I mean, there's so much music in it anyway. I mean, obviously Merry Thought's full of music, but there are other songs in it too, as we will see. And, just adding a few more seemed just fine. I mean, it's so goofy anyway that, it's quite easy to fit it into the convention of musical comedy, where people suddenly burst into song for no good reason.
Alan.
Yeah, it does. Talking about musical comedy, I mean, effectively, we talked about the problem of Jasper and Luce, and yes, they are the romantic couple at the centre of the musical, who usually have very little function. I mean, I'm thinking G&S in particular, but that's gone on as a trope into other more modern musicals. They're always the paper thin characters.
Yeah, sometimes the not protagonists, like the secondary characters, are more interesting sometimes. Yeah. Any other thoughts since we're here? Stephen is looking puzzled or pensive.
Well, just to carry on the musicals thing, I was thinking of something like the sort of Gene Kelly musicals from the 50s. It strikes me that some of those musicals are trying to do the same thing that this play is doing, in that we have this form here and everyone's got all these expectations of it, and let's see how far we can go. And you don't walk out of a Gene Kelly movie going, where did Sid Charisse come from? what was she doing there? How did he get into that? You just
because
you go with the flow. That's the whole point. That the point of that kind of musical is perhaps the point of this kind of play, which is the real time element of it is. I'd throw your frames away. You do not need them to walk in this play.
Lynn.
Yeah, I think that's a nice metaphor, a nice analogy, and I want to get back with that in mind to Merry Thought. I mean, yeah, if you were kind of taking a more sort of realist or naturalist interpretive angle, Merry Thought, late stage alcoholism, he's delusional, whatever, he's detached from reality. But Merry Thought is not a real person, he's a character in a play. And like, where did Sid Charisse come from, or how did somebody know that? You don't think about that till you walk out of the theater, and that's Merry Thought's life. It's like he doesn't have to worry about where the food and drink have been coming from and how he's going to pay for that. Because he has no reality in the causal world. He's a character in a play.
Yeah, that is quite a good way of sort of framing his character as of thinking of his character. Elizabeth, are you pondering a thought? Are you forming a thought there, or is that just like
I'm
something
just
in your
pondering the depth of what Lynn just said. It kind of broke my mind a bit. I love this idea that Merrythought doesn't need to worry about the future because he knows he's a character. I like that. I quite love that concept.
Well, I guess it's also like, I don't know if you've seen the series Glow. It's kind of like some of the characters that the women in that put on is kind of are kind of larger than life, basically. So it kind of also, yeah, it's a good series. Anyway, moving on. And kind of, you don't really care about because, well, continuing with that analogy of Glow, it kind of, you don't really care about what goes on in the ring. You care more about what goes on behind the scenes, which technically you're not supposed to be seeing. But yeah, this is basically what we get during this play as well. Yeah, someone please interrupt me, or not. Yeah, I guess not. So yeah, any other final thoughts for the sections that we've done? Plays that have been mentioned but cannot be mentioned are off limits, of course. I know you want to. Elizabeth.
I just wanted to say that I've waited a few years for us to do this play, and it's definitely worth the wait.
So is that me assuming that you all want to do this at pace again, just because it's fun, as opposed to sort of, I mean, people who have not read it before? Yeah, that's 2 thumbs up from Rachel. Yeah. Stephen is just blinking pensively.
Well, I was just thinking about reading it because I taught this throughout the entirety of my career, but it did not have did not find its readers, because actually, it really helps to have read hundreds of other plays before you read this one. Not just because you understand plays in general, but because you, I think it's Lynn's point again, isn't it? The generic games that are being played here. You need to know a little bit of the rules, don't you? So I used to think, oh, this is going to be marvelous, and it worked with students whose parents had brought them up on Monty Python.
That is fascinating to know that the Python are also genre players. They're like that genre.
Alan, sorry.
Well, a large chunk of certainly Python on film has got resonances with the subplot. Let's all go off and play at being knights errant or whatever. It is this self-referential thing. I mean, as I say, it has the feel to me almost of an end-of-term review for a drama school or a drama company. Right, let's have some fun here.
Yeah, that is quite an accurate statement. And I guess it's kind of like Derrida would have a field day. I've not read any. I just know that, he refers to a lot of, like, he likes references to references to references till you get lost. Stephen is not looking impressed.
Well,
yeah.
But there's something sort of, I was going to say humorless about Derrida, but that's not it. It's actually, humorless is not really right, but the humor, the playfulness that my professors see in Derrida is actually kind of mean-spirited and elitist, and this is not that. That this is really a game that everyone is invited to play, and I think at the time, in a theater full of theater goers, everybody understands the rules and can enjoy the game. I mean, it kind of makes fun of the citizen and his wife and their pretensions, but it really does so in a very loving way. I feel that the citizen's maybe a little bit uxorious, but we find that charming about him. And the wife really doesn't know what's going on, but we find that adorable about her. There's just something very inviting about this, that this is a game and we can all play it together. That might be an overly charitable take about this play on my part.
Well, we know you're a fan, though. So Stephen and Rachel.
Well, just to add to that, if I remember correctly, the Wanamaker production, there was a huge element of inclusiveness about the wife, because she isn't just talking to the citizen in that, she's talking to everybody. So wherever she pitches up, and the citizen is almost sort of overhearing her talking to other people sometimes, and that's I think that's basically what Lynn's saying, isn't it? So just a little anecdote to sort of support that. There's an inclusivity, and actually the wife is one of the big keys to that inclusivity.
Yeah. Rachel.
Oh no, I think I forgot whatever I was gonna say, but I really like Stephen's idea about that, because in the breaks, sometimes we have these long breaks, so people could do those costume changes. With the breaks between her dialogue with her husband, you could have her moving to different places and not in a, I guess, I haven't seen Cats, unfortunately, so I can't tell from experience, but I've heard like the performers could be touchy-feely with an audience, not to the level of that where where the performers are touchy-feely with the audiences, but she could get real close to them, walk up to them, and have that conversation, and then have her husband, talk back. And depending on where she's moved for the audience, you could play up that obnoxious factor of people talking during the play, of if she's moved all the way up to the back, into like the very top section, and she's there with somebody and he's delivering his line, there's nobody in that theater who's going to get away from that. The projection they're going to have to put on that is so much that I think that might elicit something from people. I think there's to keep this play at the end of a season would help build up a rapport with the other plays if people aren't already familiar with them. But I think you could, even if people miss those references and they're not familiar with them, there's other theater games you could play to try and bring this to the height of its humor, even if they're missing some of those, period jokes.
Yeah, I think it's one of those, as you said, it's full of games and stuff. So it would just you would just take it apart and then just play with all the things. Yeah, no, I mean, take it apart in rehearsal and then put it back together, not just leave it broken up. Any other thoughts before I close the session for today? Because we got through it a lot faster than I expected. Lynn seems pensively on the edge of something, but no, I guess not.
You need to shut me up, because I could talk about this ad infinitum. There is no end in sight. So
on that note, thank you for all readers for this for today. My brain is not working anymore. Which is to say, my sweetest honey, they cost me 3 tuppence or no money.